The summer break has given Ferrari time to reset, but it has also exposed how narrow the margin for error has become in its championship pursuit. Hamilton remains within striking distance of Kimi Antonelli, yet the points gap has grown at precisely the moment Ferrari appeared capable of applying sustained pressure on Mercedes. The Dutch Grand Prix therefore arrives with the championship battle entering a more demanding phase. Lewis Hamilton will resume the 2026 Formula One season at the Dutch Grand Prix, second in the Drivers' Championship, 50 points behind Mercedes leader Kimi Antonelli. After 11 rounds, Hamilton has 169 points compared with Antonelli's 219, while Ferrari sits second in the Constructors' Championship on 307 points, 72 behind Mercedes. Charles Leclerc is fourth in the drivers' standings on 138 points, 31 behind his Ferrari teammate. With the title fight now entering its second half, Ferrari's challenge is no longer simply about producing a fast car. The team must combine development, race execution, and discipline closely enough to prevent Mercedes from converting its current advantage into a decisive championship lead. The first priority is eliminating the small mistakes that have repeatedly reduced Hamilton's points return. His Hungarian Grand Prix weekend illustrated the problem clearly. Hamilton qualified second, but received a three-place grid penalty for impeding Oscar Piastri, then later received another 5-second penalty for pit lane speeding. He eventually finished fifth, behind Leclerc. Hamilton himself acknowledged after Hungary that he had made too many mistakes. From the paddock perspective, this is important because Ferrari does not necessarily need Hamilton to produce spectacular performances every weekend. It needs him to convert competitive opportunities into points with much greater consistency. The Hungarian race also exposed a second issue: decision-making under pressure. Hamilton had been running second when Ferrari called him into the pits during the late virtual safety car period. He questioned the timing because his tyres remained in reasonable condition, while Max Verstappen and Antonelli stayed out. Ferrari defended the decision, arguing that asking Leclerc to slow down would not have been appropriate. I read this less as a single strategic error and more as a reminder of how fine Ferrari's margins have become. When a team is fighting for a championship, every pit stop decision is judged against the positions gained or lost afterwards. Ferrari needs a clearer understanding of when to protect track position and when the tyre advantage created by a fresh set is actually worth sacrificing it. The question for Ferrari now is whether it can turn its competitive pace into cleaner execution across the remaining races. Ferrari has already demonstrated that the SF26 can win. Hamilton took his first Ferrari Grand Prix victory in Barcelona, while the team has also collected strong results across the first half of the season. The car's development program remains active, including further power unit work made possible through the FIA's additional development and upgrade opportunities mechanism. Ferrari introduced a power unit development in Austria and has been preparing another update for the second half of the season. From what I see in the development direction, Ferrari's task is not simply to chase Mercedes with more power. The SF26 has to remain usable across different circuit characteristics, tyre conditions and race strategies. An improvement that works at a high-speed venue but compromises tyre management or low-speed traction elsewhere would have limited championship value. The ADUO mechanism is particularly significant because it gives Ferrari additional scope to address its power unit deficit under the 2026 regulations. The FEIA introduced the system to allow manufacturers that fall sufficiently behind the benchmark ICE performance to make additional homologation developments. I would therefore treat Ferrari's engine development as one of the important technical variables of the second half, but not as a guaranteed solution. The championship will still depend on how efficiently Ferrari integrates those gains with the chassis, aerodynamic package, and energy management of the SF26. Do you think Ferrari can close the 50-point gap to Antonelli before the final rounds of the season? The third requirement is maintaining Hamilton's advantage over Leclerc. Hamilton currently leads his teammate by 31 points, a meaningful margin, but hardly enough to make Ferrari's internal championship picture irrelevant. Leclerc has already shown how quickly the balance can change, particularly after his victory at Silverstone and second place in Belgium. His 138 points also keep him within reach of the wider championship fight. This is where Ferrari's management becomes important. If Hamilton remains the stronger title contender deep into the season, the team may eventually have to prioritize championship efficiency rather than treating both cars as completely independent campaigns. But that decision cannot reasonably be made yet. Leclerc remains close enough that Ferrari must continue extracting maximum points from both sides of the garage. The fourth factor is Hamilton's experience. At 41, the seven-time world champion brings a depth of championship experience that is difficult to reproduce, particularly when the title opponent is a driver still in the early stages of his F1 career. Antonelli, however, has already demonstrated that he can manage difficult weekends effectively. He started 7th in Hungary after a grid penalty and still finished 3rd, extending his championship advantage. That result matters because Mercedes did not appear to have the outright pace to dominate the weekend. Antonelli instead maximized the opportunities available to him. That is precisely the type of points accumulation Ferrari must prevent if Hamilton is going to recover 50 points. I also think the championship context changes the way Hamilton's experience should be viewed. Experience is valuable when races become strategically complicated, but it only becomes decisive if the car is competitive and the execution is clean. Ferrari cannot rely on Hamilton's reputation to compensate for avoidable penalties, compromised strategy calls, or missed opportunities. There is also a wider pressure building inside the Ferrari project. Mercedes leads the Constructors' Championship with 379 points, while Ferrari has 307. The gap is substantial, but not yet beyond recovery, particularly with many races remaining. The problem is that Mercedes is receiving points from both Antonelli and George Russell, who currently has 160 points and sits 3rd in the drivers' standings. That makes Ferrari's task harder than simply beating Antonelli. Hamilton needs to consistently finish ahead of Mercedes drivers, while Ferrari must ensure Leclerc continues scoring heavily. Every weekend in which Mercedes places both cars ahead of one Ferrari becomes an opportunity for the championship leader to strengthen its position.